Hello everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. We're going to be reviewing Critical Role, which I've spent hundreds of hours watching. I'm a huge fan of the channel, and I'm going to be giving my thoughts on what they could be doing better. Now, I love Critical Role. I've watched a lot of their content, but they have some of the worst thumbnails, and they break all of the rules. So as a YouTube guru, it pains me to see them how they're making their content currently, because they could be making it so much better and getting so many more views than they are. So without further ado, let's do a screen share and dive right in. So I'm going to be giving my live reactions, and as always, not looking at the content, not watching the videos. We're just going to be using the YouTube rules. Title, thumbnail, topic, first 8 seconds. That's title, thumbnail, topic, and intros. So what makes Critical Role so strong? Well, they don't really follow a lot of those rules. I mean, look at their thumbnails. Their thumbnails are very wide. They don't focus on faces. It's a well-known fact that thumbnails that really zoom in on people's faces tend to have higher click-through rates. What is click-through rate? It's the percentage of people who go and actually click on your video and then watch it. Click-through rate is more important than views because it determines how many views you get. How do you get a high click-through rate? Titles, thumbnails, topics, intros. So what makes a good thumbnail? Well, good color contrast, oversaturation, bright colors that pop. And, you know, we're looking at the channel right now. Critical Role does those things, right? They have really good contrasting colors. They wear bright outfits and bright colors. You can see kind of their images pop off the screen. They have big expressions, right, which are really engaging and can get people to click. But one of the things that absolutely drives me crazy is they don't follow the 8-second rule. What is the 8-second rule? Well, your title and your thumbnail have to match up with the first 8 seconds of your video. So every video on Critical Role pretty much starts the same way. I'm going to open up 4 videos entirely at random, and you'll see my point. Every episode of Critical Role starts the same way. So let's open up 3 or 4 videos, and you're going to see how crazy it is. We're only going to play the intros.
Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Critical Role, where a bunch of us nerdy-ass voice actors...
That was 1.
Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Critical Role, where a bunch of us nerdy-ass voice...
That was 2. Completely different video. Not the same video at all.
Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Critical...
Yes.
I just hit
Are you
13
getting the
million
point?
subscribers on my YouTube channel,
Right?
Maximum Industries. And the secret to that success is...
Hello everyone!
There you go. Very consistent, right? And they've been doing that for nearly a decade now. So one of the secrets of YouTube that I haven't yet mentioned is consistency. So what does Critical Role do right? They do consistency really, really well. They've produced hundreds of episodes of content, and they have a remarkable formula on how consistent they are. They've built a fan base over time by being really consistent about what they do. If you're a Critical Role fan, you know exactly what you're getting every time you open a video. They don't deviate from that at all. And so you build a relationship with these actors over time. By the way, how did they become a success? Well, they're all voice actors, and they've been voice acting for decades now. So they already had a social media following. They already had a community of people that liked each of them. So they were guaranteed, in my opinion, to be a success from the start, simply because they're all relatively famous actors. I mean, they're very famous now, but when they started, they weren't as famous. They were largely just voice actors, but still, they had a following. They had a group of people following them, and so they used that following at the very beginning of what they were doing, and then just really consistently published a video a week for years on end. So if you're thinking about starting your own YouTube channel, that's really the secret. Be consistent as possible. Find your niche, right? This is all D&D content. Do they do other content? Yes, sometimes they play video games and stuff, but 95% of the time, they're doing a tabletop RPG. They're doing something related to Dungeons & Dragons or role-playing, right? They know what their niche is, they've been really consistent about it, and they've published consistently every week for over a decade. If you do those things, you will become a success. So let's go back to what I was talking about, which is their thumbnails, which I hate. They do some things right? We've mentioned this before, like the color contrast, but their angles are way too wide. You have to focus in on faces. That's the secret. If you zoom in on a face, you're going to have a huge impact. And then they don't follow the 8-second rule. Their thumbnails and their titles, they don't follow the 8-second rule. Their thumbnails and their titles don't match up. So when I see a thumbnail that looks like this with the whole cast, the thing that I want to see when I open the video is not Matt Mercer's face saying, hello and welcome to Critical Role. It should be the whole cast. Critical Role can do one of two things here. They can stay consistent, in which case I actually recommend, experiment with this. Throw Matt Mercer's face in more of the thumbnails. I understand why they don't. It's a group partnership. They're all in the business together. They all want equal screen and face time. If they used Matt Mercer's face in every single thumbnail, their click-through rates would go up because Matt Mercer is at the beginning of every single video. That is the 8-second rule. Now we are going to go and look at the most popular videos on this list to prove my point. One of my favorite things to do is compare the latest videos to the most popular videos on the channel, and you're going to see everything I just talked about unfold really quickly. So these are the most viewed videos on Critical Role's channel, and I also have Geek and Sundry open. If you don't know, Critical Role started on Geek and Sundry, and then they became really popular. They spun off into their own channel. So if you go to the most popular list on Geek and Sundry, it's actually all Critical Role content. Now, first off, the first episode of a campaign or season is always going to do well. Critical Role has dozens and dozens of episodes. It's all part of a through line, a storyline, an ongoing story. So the first episode of a campaign is always going to do well because that's where people start, right? If you're making hundreds of episodes of content that hundreds of thousands of people are watching, you're always going to start on that first episode. And you can see that when you go over to Geek and Sundry's channel, look at the two most viewed videos on their channel, right? It's an episode 1, it's an episode 1, right? And then what comes after that? Episode 2, because that's the episode people go next to in the channel. That's not that big of a takeaway. We know this shit, obviously, right? You can see, again, episode 1, right? The reason this video did well is because it's different. Because Critical Role is so consistent, when they do something different, people notice. And this is the first thumbnail that they had that was animated, that featured an animated thumbnail. So I have a feeling that this video did well because it was just different and interesting and people liked the animated thumbnail. Isn't this interesting? One of their most viewed videos. Now, Critical Role has done dozens of one-shots. They've done tons of one-shots. What is a one-shot? It's like a one-off. It's not part of a season. Most of their content is part of a season. Isn't it interesting that the Search for Grog got so many clicks? Look at that face, right? You see a face. I wonder why. That definitely had an impact, right? The making of Your Turn to Roll, The Legend of Vox Machina. You have a face, right? Music content's also big. YouTube's really a music platform, so I'm sure people fell in love with this song. Let's keep going. Episode 8 should really have more views than episode 9, right? Because the earlier you go in a campaign, the more views a video is likely to have. Why is episode 9 better? Because it focuses more on Ashley Johnson's face. She also has a great expression. It's like an unusual expression. It's very engaging. But look at how focused they are on her face. That has an impact. Let's keep scrolling down. By the way, another animated thumbnail, which I think is very interesting. Let's see. Ashley Johnson. Again, we have Ashley Johnson's face. We have a very interesting pose, a single solitary figure. It's episode 58. What a random episode. But it became successful, right? Let's keep going. Isn't that interesting? You have a close-up on Matt Mercer's face, meaning this video follows the 8-second rule. It's a completely random episode very late into the campaign, and it has 2.8 million views. That's not a coincidence, folks. So there's something to a solitary figure, close-ups on the face, and particularly Matt Mercer. I also wonder if more individuals on the Critical Role cast held up a D20 like that, because it's so iconic for Dungeons & Dragons. I honestly wonder if more characters did a thumbnail like this, if their click-through rates would go up. And look, episode 15. This shouldn't necessarily be in their top most viewed videos. Why is it? Because it has an interesting close-up on the face. They're doing an interesting pose. There's a lot to that. It really seems like solitary figures in the thumbnails tend to do better. I really wonder if they put Matt Mercer's face in every thumbnail, if these would do better. Let's see what else we can see, right? Close-up on the face. That's episode 72. It's one of the most viewed videos ever, right? Close-up on the face. There is something to those animated thumbnails. They really seem to be doing well. Let's look at Geek and Sundry. Obviously, the first, 3 to 5 episodes are going to be the biggest because it's a big season. There's 140 episodes or something in Campaign 2. Vin Diesel's a famous actor. That's a no-brainer, right? Now we're going to start to get into the more interesting side of things. Let's see what we can see. This thumbnail's a really good thumbnail, right? It's got an action pose. It's got this interesting character and a close-up on the face. But it's episode 4. We can do better than that. Let's see. I want to find something a little more interesting. Isn't this interesting? A close-up on the face. Close-up on the face. It's not Critical Role content, but you can see what I'm talking about, right? There is a secret to this. Oh, look, Ashley Johnson. She has a close-up on the face. You see the eyes, right? There's a lot to that. And another animated thumbnail. Isn't that interesting? There might be something to animated thumbnails, gang. There might be something to that. I find it very interesting that episode 24, which is so deep into his season, features Matt Mercer's face. I guarantee you this video opens on Matt Mercer. I wonder if there's something to that. So there you go. There are some takeaways here for the Critical Role cast. I hope that's interesting. We haven't even looked at any data. I haven't even done any behind-the-scenes optimization or analytics work. We're just looking at the front page, which anybody can do. We've already found a ton of secrets. Single solitary figures tend to do better. Matt Mercer in the thumbnail tends to do better. That's not because he's more famous or more interesting. Sorry, Matt. But it's because he's in the first 8 seconds. It follows the 8-second rule, so you want him in the thumbnail. It's also because it's the first episode of a campaign, right? That's really going to help when you have the first episode of a campaign. That's just naturally how that flows. I hope this was interesting. That's my summary for Critical Role. So if you're not a follower already, please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hear from you. And, if you thought this was interesting, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.